Hi, my name is Raul Roncal, and I'm one of the coordinators of the Central Sector, and I'm also part of the teaching team of the Ligaya ng Panginoon community. I'd like to introduce a series of presentations that we will be listening to in the community for in the next few months. It will be about the social teachings of the church. Uh, what's the aim of this series of presentations? Well, the aim of this series of presentations is first and foremost just to understand the basic principles of the social teachings of the Catholic Church, which is meant to encourage us to continue our evangelistic work, which is very much a part of the teachings on social transformation and also our social action work. At the same time, we want to encourage us to think about our different uh, ministries and different things that we do individually and corporately, and ask if there are certain areas we could still improve on, and or certain things that we can still do if we understand the social teachings of the church and the demands of accomplishing social transformation in our society. So we will try to understand that together. What's the basic content? Talk number one, which I will talk about today, is meant to lay the ground by giving us a context of who we are as Filipinos and our Philippine context, and the call of our church leaders to think about social transformation in our life as a people. And so we will look at that in talk number one. Then we will jump into the basics of the social teachings of the Catholic Church, which, if you study it, seems to encourage us to keep on doing what we're doing. Our mission work, our evangelistic work that is aimed to transform the lives of people and families, and to lead them to discipleship, which is very much the beginnings of social transformation. But at the same time, we want to understand it in such a way that we can ask the question, should we do more? Is there more we could do? Now, how would we do that? By understanding the doctrines and the teachings of the Catholic Church, by especially appreciating the principles behind it. The principle of human dignity, for example, or the principle of solidarity. In one sense, the why of the social teachings of the church, in order for us to reflect on what else we could do. And last but not the least, we will then listen to a presentation that would encourage us, call us on to live a life of social responsibility. And our main source would be the writings of Pope Francis, especially this recent encyclical wherein he emphasized the need for us to look at the parable of the Good Samaritan. And he says this: the parable eloquently presents the basic decision we need to make. In order to rebuild our wounded world in the face of so much pain and suffering, our only course is to imitate the Good Samaritan. Our only course is to imitate the Good Samaritan. The last presentation would be a presentation wherein we would reflect the demands of discipleship, but especially in the eyes of the story of the Good Samaritan. The call to take on a lifestyle, a way of life that's concerned about the needs of those around us, a concern that comes from a deep conviction that it is part and parcel of what it means to be a disciple. So this will be a good series of presentations that would engage you in conversation and reflection, and to invite us to a deeper appreciation of the call of the Lord for us to take on a lifestyle of social responsibility. Now, let's begin with our Philippine context, where we are and where we should go. If you listen to the past teachings of especially the popes who visited us, they've always reminded us of our special role in Asia, We are predominantly Christian. And because of that, uh, Pope John Paul II, the late Saint John Paul II, when he visited us in the 1980s, said this: "You will hear other nations, especially your neighbors in Asia, calling you, 'Come over to help us.'" And looking at this, we see that it is very clear that the Pope is reminding us of the truth that, hey, we have been given a gift. Recently, we celebrated 500 years of Christianity in the Philippines. And that in itself is something that we need to recognize. And John Paul II is reminding us of that truth. At the same time, with that realization of who we are as a nation, especially the fact that we are predominantly Christian, we have to also recognize our realities. We are also known to be a corrupt nation. There is a lot of corruption up to now in our country. There is still inequality, poverty. And we've often been blamed by saying, okay, if you're a Christian and you want to present the message of Christianity to us, look at your life. Christianity in its context, the need for some change in our society is very clear. And so that's something that we need to recognize. And that's why when Pope Francis came to visit us in 2015, he spoke these words to us: "At all levels of society, to reject all forms of corruption which diverts resources from the poor, and to make concerted efforts to ensure the inclusion of every man and woman and child in the life of the community." A certain concern for every member of our society, especially those who are in need. And Pope Francis was directing his message to us as Filipinos in 2015. In the homily that he gave celebrating the 500 years of Christianity in the Philippines, he said this: "The Christian proclamation that you have received needs constantly to be brought to others. The gospel message of God's closeness cries out to be expressed in love for our brothers and sisters. God desires that no one perish. For this reason, He asked the church to care for those who are hurting and living on the fringes of life." So, within our context, Pope Francis is speaking to us. Open your eyes. See the needs around you. As a Christian, we cannot close our eyes to this truth, especially in our Philippine context. And you might say, okay, is that something new? No, because it is part of the gospel message in Matthew 25. Clearly, when Jesus was speaking about Judgment Day, he was talking about dividing the people in Judgment Day, the goats from the sheep. And then he was describing people who were feeding the hungry, helping those who are in need. And he was asked by his listeners, or at least in his story, he was asked, "Then the righteous will answer him, saying, 'Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you?' And the king will answer them, 'Truly, as you did it to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me.'" A Christian, because of who we are, Jesus is saying, open your eyes to those who are in need. Because if you feed them, If you do something to help them, it means that you're doing it to me. It's expanding our understanding that we Christians must look around us and see that the other is someone of value. And that is something that clearly, something that we need to consider as Christians here in our Philippine context. As Pope Francis was saying to us, we need to continue proclaiming the gospel. But in a special way, we need to take concern for those who are in the fringes. That is our context. And that is why in these recent times, when I think you all know the beginnings of the community pantry, when Patricia Non was asked, so she's not even claiming that she's doing it from a Christian point of view, but she was just asked, so why are you doing what you're doing? Sabi niya, ayoko nang magreklamo. Sawa na ako nagreklamo. Gusto kong may gawin. And it struck a chord in our hearts that we started saying, yeah, let's do something to help. She was opening our eyes also to what Pope Francis and also the gospel is trying to remind us of. We cannot close our eyes to the needs of society. Part and parcel of our Philippine context is to recognize that we are a Christian nation. And that if we are a Christian nation, part of what we need to see is the demands of Christianity on us. And what's the demand? To look around us and say, what can we do? What can we do to help out? What can we do to transform society? And that is fundamental to the social doctrines of the church. And here we're just beginning to look at our context, to allow us to recognize, yes, we need to do something. We cannot close our eyes to that reality. Alam ko yan kaya siguro marami rin sa atin itong nakaraang taon. Natutuwa ako kasi maraming nangyayari na tumutulong ang mga members ng Ligaya. There's so many things that we've been doing because people were moved to do something for those who are in need, even beyond their communities. And that is exactly what a Christian experience is when we see people in need. What's the insight? Where are we? Who are we? We are the Philippines, a Christian nation, called to evangelize here in Asia. But at the same time, we also are a Christian nation in need to look around us and see, what can we do? What can we do? Anong pwede natin gawin? The insights that I'd like to sort of remind us of as we begin this series of presentations on the social teachings of the church is this. Our context in the Philippines is something that we need to recognize and see. It is not an accident that we are Christians living in the Philippines, and the Philippines having a particular context. With that, it's obvious that we cannot close our eyes to our context. Hindi natin pwedeng isarang mata natin sa mga nangyayari sa paligid natin. Kaya marami sa atin nauudyok na may gawin. Kasi nabubuksan ng ating mga mata, may kailangan tayong gawin. And I think that's part of the first insight that we need to take on. The insight of opening our eyes to those who are in need or the society's needs. That's important. And this recognition of something that needs to be done must lead us to action. Something concrete. And it is clear that many of you have already done something concrete. And I think we will continue to be moved to do something concrete. Last insight. Many of these things that we will be talking about in community in the next few months. We cannot give you a list of requirements of what you need to do. If you look at the teachings of the church, it does not begin by telling us the list of things we need to do. It has those things also, but it begins by first opening our eyes to who we are and the call of the Lord for us and how we should relate to those around us. So, social responsibility, first and foremost, must begin from within. It's a personal choice that many of us would have to confront. And social responsibility begins with a choice that, hey, I need to look at my life. And as more and more brothers and sisters take on that personal choice to take responsibility, we will find ourselves doing something corporate and making a difference together. I would leave you at that to give you that presentation, that first presentation, and the next topic will be, okay, what are the basics of the social teachings of the church? Why do we do what we do? And we will reflect on that in the next presentation. God bless us, and I hope you got some insights from the introduction to this series and also from this particular topic on our context in the Philippines.